January 6th, what really happened? This is part of our ongoing series. Our top story this week, federal authorities have arrested 15 more individuals on charges related to the Capitol riot. Court records reveal some charges are as minor as trespassing. Meantime, thousands of BLM and Antifa rioters have had charges dropped after beating, looting, and burning their way through our streets for years. Joining me now to discuss is Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, it is always great to have a conservative here on the show. You know, dishonest Democrats in and out of the press have called the events of January 6th an armed insurrection, yet no one has been charged with insurrection or sedition. Now, I've said that the rioters have legal cases against some of those who are defaming them in the press and other places. But, Congressman, is there justification for violent left-wing rioters and looters walking free when trespassers and vandals on January 6th are being held indefinitely? Is that equal justice?
It's not, and we've seen the top leaders in the Democratic Party gaslight for a process that seems to always make excuses for left-wing purveyors of violence. Excuses that really call into question whether or not there's a two-tier system of justice. We continue to ask questions about the treatment of January 6 detainees, their access to counsel. But here's what's really happening, Chris. You see, the Department of Justice has to maintain this theory that the January 6 detainees maintain an ongoing threat to the government of the United States so that they are able to take the national security apparatus and turn it against our people. America First is such a strong political movement. It is so threatening to the elite that they are using the federal executive branch with the FBI taking people's financial records en masse from institutions like Bank of America. They're even using the Congress, Nancy Pelosi's hyper-partisan January 6th committee, placing demands on phone records of myself and my colleagues like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Madison Cawthorn, a lot of the folks that you see on Newsmax, a lot of the folks that actually fight for the country. So it's on. Nancy Pelosi is there to seize power. The Biden regime is there to seize power. And the question is, if the voters trust us again, if we get those gavels to be able to perform the oversight that your preamble lays out as so badly needed, will we actually do it? Will we step up and fight for the people who send us to fight for them?
Since you brought up Pelosi and Cheney and Adam Schiff and crying Kinzinger, among others, they have no interest in stopping ongoing left-wing organized crime sponsored by BLM and Antifa terrorists. Estimates out there say that small businesses took a hit alone, just small businesses alone, over $1 billion and counting. Is it a double standard? The reason why so many people look at the January 6th commission, this double standard, they look at it and they go, wow, you just want to focus on one day. Meanwhile, you've got billions and billions of dollars of damage being done to Americans over 2 years. Isn't that the biggest, I don't know, the biggest delegitimizing factor for this whole January 6th commission?
Well, of course, and when you look at gravity, you can even look to the FBI's own conclusion that there was no organizing apparatus for whatever bad things happened on January 6th. And that bears a stark contrast to the highly organized BLM Antifa effort that even had members of Congress and the sitting vice president now of the United States raising money to pay for the bail of people to be able to get right back out on the streets and do that violence and really engage in that domestic terrorism that was so troubling. But give the left this credit. They did vertically integrate their strategy to do this violence. George Soros elected a lot of DAs all around the country that were ready and willing to drop charges so long as the politics that motivated the violence was left-wing politics.
Now, we'll keep it with Pelosi, this committee to investigate January 6th. They've received, as you already alluded to, private phone records of Republican members of Congress. Leader McCarthy has said he's going to get accountability for this happening. Are you buying that?
If Kevin McCarthy really wanted accountability for the Stalinist tactics of the January 6th committee, he would remove Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger from the committees that they serve on as a consequence of their membership in the Republican conference. You mentioned the highly important hearing earlier today with Secretary of State Blinken. Well, Adam Kinzinger got Republican time to ask questions in that committee. Liz Cheney was a part of drafting the National Defense Authorization Act, serving on the House Armed Services Committee. Cheney and Kinzinger are not on our team anymore. They've crossed the Rubicon, and they are supporting these very Stalinist efforts through this January 6th committee to go after colleagues because of our politics. And the fact that they're doing that, and the fact that they face no consequence from McCarthy regarding committee removal, really raises doubt as to whether or not Kevin will bring the level of vigor that we need to oversight and accountability when we ultimately take power. I mean, look, we need to be getting rid of Blinken. We should be impeaching him. We should be having far tougher oversight on General Milley, not just from the failures in Afghanistan, but even from these new revelations, Chris, that General Milley actually placed himself above the President of the United States, above the Commander-in-Chief in recent revelations. So I think these are very dangerous people. I think they need to be removed from their positions of power, and I think we need to elect Republicans in 2022 who will actually do it, who will go beyond talking about it and will actually do it.
I want to expand on what you just brought up. Bob Woodward's new book alleging some very disturbing details that 2 days after the January 6th events, the riots, General Milley reportedly broke the chain of command, went around President Trump, and assured his counterpart in communist China that if President Trump had ordered an attack on China, that Milley would warn China, potentially leading to the slaughter of American service members. If true, I don't think his resignation is going to be enough. Do you, Congressman?
I don't believe everything I read in a Bob Woodward book until folks get under oath, but these questions have to be asked under oath immediately. And if true, General Milley has broken some very good laws, and we ought to make sure that there is accountability for that. Look, I mean, this is someone who already viewed his role, I think, as rather outsized. He went beyond giving military advice and wanting to be a critical race theorist and wanting to transform the social justice goals of the military. All the while, they didn't plan for the one thing that actually happened in Afghanistan. Your preamble laid out the reason for the failure in Afghanistan was a lack of planning, a belief in the lie told over and over again that somehow the Afghan government was going to stand up and fight and facilitate further American departure and withdrawal. The reality is that Afghanistan government was just a mirage, and it faded into the sand. And you know what? When Ghani told Biden that they were facing a full-scale invasion from the Taliban, Biden told Ghani to lie. So think about it. These Democrats impeached Donald Trump for trying to get a foreign leader to tell the truth about corruption, and then they back Joe Biden when he gets a foreign leader to lie, resulting in the death of 13 American Marines.
Well, back to the subject of Milley, I will say that Senator Rubio, we are hearing, is calling for him to be fired by this administration. We'll see where this all goes. And I think you're right to have skepticism, Congressman, of stuff that's inside of a Bob Woodward book. Congressman Matt Gaetz, it's always a pleasure, sir. We appreciate your time, as always.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.